sure you can understand why our beloved parent company, Warner Brothers, has decided to make a sequel to the trilogy.
Yeah, I was struggling watching films until I realised it was my sleep patterns.
Why didn't they let me read for this movie? I'd have put the work in. I'd have learned to do a backflip.
No. I'm done fighting. I am the most complete fighter in the world. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
You can call it the art of fighting without fighting.
Stick around. Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
Dodge this.
Happy New Year and welcome to episode 4 of Dodge This, your favourite action movie podcast, probably. I am Simon Fielder, coming live from a cloudy, windy Amsterdam. And joining me, as is, you can say it's tradition now because we've done it 4 times in a row, it's Matthew Heighton.
I don't think tradition starts 4 times in a row, but I like that.
How many times does it have to be for it to be a tradition?
7.
Oh, okay. We've already covered 7 being the magic number for podcasts. So if we get that far, we've got it locked in. Exciting news, everyone. We've made it to 2022. Some people said it wouldn't happen.
Some people say it's not happening.
Oh, God.
It's all a simulation. But we'll get to that.
Oh, my
We'll
goodness.
get to that.
Okay. Well, you know it by the title. We're talking about Matrix Resurrections. So it feels fitting, actually, that it's episode 4 of the podcast and episode 4 of the famed franchise. But before we get into that, we should probably have a look back. We should have a look outside the remit of action cinema. It's been Christmas. We touched on Die Hard last time. And Matthew, you'll be pleased to hear this, actually. Based on our conversation, I finished season 1 of Cobra Kai.
Oh, did you? I started season 4 last night.
I liked it. It won me back over, actually.
Season 2 is really good. That last episode of season 2, I told you, it's one of the best choreographed fight scenes I've ever seen.
I can't wait to get there now.
I built it up so much for you.
It's a lot. There's a lot riding on it. But yes, it won me back over. The action in season 1 is fine, but it was pleasant. I enjoyed it.
It does get better. Season 4. This is a spoiler, but not a plot spoiler.
You can't spoil it.
It's not a plot spoiler. It's just it's bothered me so much that I couldn't get to sleep last night. Someone, I'm not say who, but someone has a creme brulee for breakfast. It's annoyed me so much.
I don't know if I want to watch that. I'm not. I don't know. Thomas Ian Griffith is back though, so that's exciting news. I haven't even thought about him since the 1990s, so I'm intrigued that they've got me on the throwback action vibes for sure.
There's some great callbacks to the original films and some terrible ones, but I'm glad you went back in.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile. I only have to go back to Die Hard with a Vengeance now, and then we can revisit my opinion on that one. Also went back to 2 other Matrix films, which we will get to. But outside of that, I watched Free Guy, or Free Guy, depending on how you want to land.
Freaky.
I quite enjoyed it, actually.
I've heard good things.
Actually, a little bit of overlap in terms of things it sort of touches upon and covers, and Matrix Resurrections in terms of just holding a mirror up to the media landscape that we exist in right now, except Free Guy's made by Disney. So
so they are the media landscape.
Yeah, I quite liked Free Guy. I found it quite amusing. I found it quite well sort of measured and pitched, and sort of knowing enough about the video game industry, in as much as I know not loads about the video game industry, but I've played enough games to kind of get the references and be like, oh, yeah, okay. Some quite good action. And, Ryan Reynolds plays Ryan Reynolds. So if you like Ryan Reynolds...
He's good at that. He is good at that.
Actually, I think he plays Buddy the Elf to some degree in this movie. He has a sort of really happy, wide-eyed demeanor. There were a couple of moments where I was like, what does he remind me of? And then somebody said it. Buddy the Elf. Yes. Anyway, I recommend it. Also watched Castle Falls, the Dolph Lundgren directed Lundgren and Scott Adkins movie.
How was it?
It was fine. I can't recommend it with my whole heart, I'm afraid. It was a nice effort, and I'm glad it got made, and I'm glad, in spite of the pandemic and everything, they got to make it, but it just didn't quite deliver enough of anything that I wanted from it.
That's fair. That's fair.
But it was well-intentioned, and I like all the people involved, and that's all I'll say.
Oh, nice. My films this week were obviously Don't Look Up. Everyone's watching Don't Look Up.
Yes, haven't seen it yet, but have seen polarized responses.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's because a lot of people keep complaining it's too on the nose, it's too cartoonish, but I think it's a really, really brutal satire of everything in culture and our response to crisis as human beings in the modern world. I think it's very well done. And I will not say much more.
Okay.
Not much action.
Fair enough. It's good to know that going in, to be fair.
Yeah. If you're there for sort of a kung fu sort of explosion.
Can't wait to see Leo and Jennifer Lawrence finally going toe to toe.
Yeah. Then that's for you. I also watched the new Spider-Man.
Oh, did you got to go to the cinema? Of course.
Yeah, I did it as a double with Matrix.
Woo!
I wish you would talk to me about Marvel films more.
Oh no!
It was so good. It was so good.
Right.
They really have perfected what they do, Marvel.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people hate that Marvel has sort of taken over the blockbuster scene.
Yeah, right. Am I right, Lana Wachowski?
Yeah, and they have made this thing where it is this cult of Marvel now. But oh my god, as someone who grew up reading the comics and loves the comics, it is payoff for my era of nerd now.
You are in with both feet into this metaverse sort of soul-sucking nerd wank situation.
It's great. It's great. They just perfect what they do. But there's still a lot of charm, Marvel films, and I think people get really against them because it is so vast now and it does dominate the blockbuster landscape. And it has now since I still can't get my head around this since 2008. They've been doing the MCU since 2008.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's a long time. In Corona years, we have had most of the MCU during the Corona years.
I can't wait to find out what was happening in all the other Corona metaverses. But I will watch this Spidey. I think it's fair to say I have enjoyed both the Tom Holland ones, but I think, and I don't know if I've worked out how to yet, I need to adjust my barometer going into Marvel movies, because I think latterly I'm enjoying them less because I'm expecting them to be something they're not. And they are always Marvel films first.
Yeah. Although Hawkeye did
watch the first episode. I thought, You know what? I've sat through all the other Disney Plus series and they've all been fine. This one looks like it will be no different.
I think it is one of the better ones.
Oh, Matthew!
Yeah. But we're not here to talk Marvel.
No,
what
you're
trailers you got for me this week?
You're right. You want to do, let's do a little look at some trailers.
Welcome to the party, pal!
All right, first up, didn't mention it when the first trailer came out, but there was a second trailer out, so I think we should probably touch upon it. It is Uncharted, the movie, the long-awaited movie of the 4-titled video game. I think I've phrased that quite badly. There's 4 Uncharted games, if you don't count the spin-offs and Lost Legacy and the one on PSP and that sort of thing. And for many years, everyone has been demanding this gets made into a movie because it's such a cinematic video game where everyone wanted Nathan Fillion to be in it. He is.
Oh, yeah.
He is not in it, sadly, that we know of. If they haven't fucking snuck him in there for a cameo, then they have shot themselves in the dick. It's got Tom Holland in it.
Nathan Fillion voice him or something?
No. I just think he was sort of that...
Right vibe.
Yeah, he's just got the exact right vibe. But I think now he's arguably too old. But a lot of people could argue Tom Holland too young.
But I think that's what they're trying to get ahead. Also, he's probably not...
I
Too
know.
young.
He's not 15, even though he still looks 15.
I saw an interview with him about this film, and he said when he went back on Spider-Man, the director didn't tell him to slim down, but she noticed he'd got absolutely stacked to be in Uncharted because he was next to Mark Wahlberg, and he said, yeah, I had to like stack it up because I just looked like a little boy next to Mark Wahlberg.
Fair play, actually.
Yeah.
I think the first trailer for this, everyone was a bit down on it. And then I don't know if they took all that stuff on board before they put the second trailer together, but I'm more on board for it for the second trailer. Like, I'm a huge fan of the video games. I've played all of them all the way through. So am I the target audience? Arguably and arguably not. You know, this is like for everyone, this movie, and the video game people are the ones who are going to be like, well, actually, Sully needs a moustache, otherwise he can't be that person. So I think that's why they put in the little shot of Mark Wahlberg with the moustache at the end. But I probably will see this unless it gets 11% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah, I'll watch it, but it's done nothing for me, the trailer.
Interesting. Have you played the games?
I haven't, so I think that's why
okay.
I'm biased. But I think, really weirdly, this looks so like a computer game. That's like, oh no.
I mean, there are like shot for shot some bits in it.
Yeah, I've seen stuff like the bit of him falling and stuff, which I really like when they do that. I think it is like fan servicing. But a lot of the time, I hate this sort of adventure movie because they make it too much scope. So it'll be like, and now we're here, and now we're on the other side of the world, and now we're in this museum. And you know what? Indiana Jones did that a little bit, but not much. Indiana Jones was always a very straightforward, contained story that just unraveled in front of him. Started with a little vignette at the beginning, and then it would go into its main story.
Great use of vignette there. Thank you.
Yeah. I think a lot of adventure films have forgotten that. But we'll see.
We will
seen
see.
it, so we don't know.
There is,
I
feel like there is a gap in the market for like the new Indiana Jones, because the Crystal Skull, I still haven't seen it. There was the old Nick
Best
Cage one. Oh, God.
There's Aquaman. That was...
Is Aquaman
basically-
of it?
Oh, Aquaman is about 10 films in one film,
Really?
but none of them make sense. I really enjoyed watching Aquaman because it is just so like, I don't know how any of these choices have been made, and I love it. It's terrible. It's terrible.
All right. Well, I'm holding out hope for Uncharted simply because I'm a huge fan of the franchise, and it would be nice if they sort of nailed it. Let's move on. Next trailer. I don't know. I don't think this is an action movie, but it's got Michelle Yeoh in it, and there's definitely some action, and so I'm allowing it to slip through because also it's January and there's not a lot of action trailers coming out.
There was quite a bit of action in this trailer, but yeah, I know what you mean. It doesn't look like that's what it's going to focus on.
Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is the name of this movie, and it's by the Daniels, who made Swiss Army Man, which I also haven't seen.
This studio I keep seeing crop up, and I hadn't seen them until recently. Is it A24?
Yes.
And I like them because their logo is googly eyes. I like this trailer because there's googly eyes in it. And if anyone knows me online, I love a googly eye.
A24 makes a lot of like big budget indie films, I would say.
Yeah,
Although they
yeah.
also made Bond, I think. So
Yeah, I think they seem to be a growing studio. They do seem to, every time I see them, I think, oh, that's interesting. And I think they're making some really good choices. I really like this trailer. I really hate, though, how, you know how Hollywood has phases? We're definitely in like a multiverse phase of Hollywood. Like, you know, in the early noughties, sort of mid-noughties, you had all the zombie wave and stuff like that. There's always something that's happening in Hollywood. And at the moment, it is multiverse. And every time I hear multiverse now, I'm just like, okay. And like, I've lived that sort of genre fiction all my life. Like, I'm obsessed with that genre fiction. But now I'm just like, oh, okay.
You're like, yeah, I liked it like it's early work. But now that everyone's into it, I don't know, I'm going to find the next thing.
It's just that thing though, isn't it? It's just like, it becomes a selling point because so many people are searching for that sort of stuff. And again, it's a direct response to how well Marvel's done it. And again, you know, it's the sort of fiction that a lot of filmmakers of our generation, they grew up on that sort of fiction. So they obviously want to put those ideas into their films. And to be honest, it is nice to see it done in its own contained way. So I am really excited about this, but I am like, oh, this is just heralding how many multiverse things are going to come through.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I do like the look of this one, though, for sure. It's got a very, big budget indie film vibe to it. It has that sort of like Eternal Sunshine sort of vibe of I don't really know what this is about, but it's got like a lot of things in it. I'm ready to watch.
Does look a bit Jet Li the One.
A great reference and not a great film.
One of the first mainstream multiverse films, I believe.
That's true. And also, Statham is in that movie.
Yeah.
People forget it's a Jason Statham. It's a Jet Li movie, but like early Statham before he was the Stath.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, this is quite a nice way to seg into a little look back.
Oh, boys! I'm back!
It's the end of one year and the beginning of a new one, so maybe we should just take a couple of minutes to just dip into some of our action highlights of last year. Since this podcast is so new, we haven't, been able to talk about a lot of the action movies that came out. That said, the 3 episodes that we have had, I feel like we have ticked quite a lot of people's boxes for some of the action movies of the year. We're talking Raging Fire, we're talking One Shot, we're talking Paper Tigers. I've seen a lot of lists in the last week, and a lot of them featured those in pretty high positions. So I think we've done quite well with our choices thus far. Outside of those 3, though, Matthew, did you have any action hot picks?
Yeah, I did.
Any hot picks?
You're not going to like it because I know you feel the comic book genre isn't an action genre, but the Suicide Squad was so good. I've watched it 3 times now.
Have you? I still haven't seen it, and that is on my list of things I told you I would watch. So I'm going to watch it.
I think I've hyped it up too much for you.
I do think that is going to be true, and I did watch the Harley Quinn movie, and I did not like it.
But again, like, DC has had some absolute flops, except for Aquaman, which is spectacular.
It's the peak of their canon.
It's unbelievable. It's just such a perfect movie. But yeah, the Suicide Squad, giving it to James Gunn and knowing that one of the things that DC needed to do was give more sort of directors more ownership. Because that was not the Suicide Squad, but Suicide Squad. The director came out after it. I can't remember who the original director was. It's gone out of my head. But they did a thing afterwards saying that their movie wasn't the movie that Warner Brothers put on screen. So I think Warner Brothers realised that one of the things they need to do is stop trying to make stuff that they have this wider vision for, because they don't have a Kevin Feige like Marvel do. So they just let James Gunn go to town, and it's absolutely his wheelhouse, and it was just great. Action sequences are great, comedy's balanced, forward momentum is at a bloody breakneck speed, and I think if you don't know that side of DC, you don't need to have seen any of the other films. It's a really good entry level point for some characters you wouldn't know.
Okay, this is a pretty good sales pitch, Matt. I'm in on it. I'm gonna give it a look. It's been too long. It's been sitting there waiting for me. I'm gonna click play.
Yeah. What about you? What was your fave?
I think the ones that we've touched upon have definitely been up there. Big fan of Raging Fire.
Yeah, the further I get away from Raging Fire, the more I love it as well.
Yeah.
It's great.
I was looking back through my list. We were just talking briefly before we started. Letterboxd. If you are listening and you're not on Letterboxd, it's an app where you sort of log movies that you've watched, review movies, read other people's reviews. It's like a social network, yeah, but like for movies, okay?
Also, if you're listening and you want us to advertise anything, that's how easily Simon can segue into something. Like, we're not advertising Letterboxd, but like, say you had a mattress, Simon would go, yeah, I was struggling watching films until I realised it was my sleep patterns, and I changed my mattress entirely. And I'll be honest, I never thought I needed a new mattress.
It doesn't feel like one of those podcasts where they go, and now, guys, we're going to take a break. Do you have a VPN? I've been using NordVPN for all my Netflix watching. No, I just seg it in, mate. It's like an advertorial. I do it in the same tone of voice, which is the tone of voice of a prick.
We're not advertisers, we're product placers.
That's right. We need
I
that
say
little
as
icon.
I drink my Pepsi Max. Glug, glug, glug.
Oh, boy. Outside of those ones that we've covered, Bond, I enjoyed. I thought there was some great action in Bond. Things that stood out, a movie called Hydra out of Japan. Very low budget action movie that was plot-wise very contained and small, and it was kind of a very chill, to the point of arguably being a bit boring occasionally, but featured some hand-to-hand combat sequences that made me very excited in a way that I haven't been excited about since Donnie Yen started working MMA into his fights in like SPL. It was where you're like, oh my, they're like doing shit you haven't seen before. And I can't describe it, but it's like, they're so fast, Matt. They're so fast. I'm going to send you a fight scene from Hydra just so you can see that. But yeah, good things that I saw. Hydra, Enter the Fat Dragon, another Donnie Yen movie. A lot of people rating Wrath of Man, the Guy Ritchie movie. Each to his own. I thought it was fine.
Yeah, I've steered that one. People I trust have told me don't bother. But I'll watch it at some point.
I think there's some interesting action in it towards the end, but I watched the first 20 minutes going, is this real? Is this, did he write this dialogue? Because it's like a parody.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
I just couldn't get on board after that. Maybe I need to revisit it again. There's not enough time to revisit everything.
Unless it's the Suicide Squad.
Okay.
Did you have any guilty pleasures this year?
Ooh, guilty
I
pleasures.
have a big guilty pleasure.
Mate, I feel like this entire podcast is my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, but we're watching films that we quite bloody love.
Yeah, that's
whereas
true.
sometimes, like Aquaman, you enjoy a film that you shouldn't. I loved Godzilla vs. Kong. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. I saw a big monkey fight a big lizard.
Yeah, I think that is why I didn't watch it, basically. I'm not saying I don't want to see that, but I've got to, and what I want in the new year is the ability to switch my mind into the right mode to watch that film and have a great time with it.
Well, this is something I think online culture certainly made really, it's a lot harder, and things like Rotten Tomato and you know, all those sites that sort of collate reviews and stuff. I think you are allowed to just enjoy a film that isn't extremely amazing or extremely shit. I think you are allowed to just watch a 3-star film and go, yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I think if you know that going in, that's fine. I think the tricky part is, and I feel like we are going to circle back around to this point. If you go in expecting something and it delivers something very different, it's possible you could feel disappointed, underwhelmed, or shortchanged.
And now for our main feature.
And now, our feature presentation.
Dodge this.
Yeah, let's do it. We couldn't do it in the last podcast of the year because the whole world went to poo-poos, and Matthew had to be locked in a very special COVID vault for a while. Yeah. But we have since managed to see it. Sadly, I did not get to see it on the biggest screen possible, but I watched it in 4K and I sat very close to my TV and I turned it up very loud. And I feel like that is a fair enough representation of the Matrix Resurrections. Preface to this, I thought I would dip back into Matrix Reloaded to see how that stood up. And when I got to the end of Matrix Reloaded, I was like, I sort of do need to see how this finishes because I can't quite remember. So I also rewatched Matrix Revolutions. So I had the entirety of the previous trilogy quite fresh in my mind going into this. And also, when The Matrix got its cinematic re-release, I want to say last year, but I suspect it was actually the year before because what is a year?
It's probably 2019 because it was...
Fuck off, that's too long ago.
But it was probably just early 2020. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a 20-year anniversary anyway. And I went to see that again in the cinema. And it's so fucking good.
So good.
The first Matrix movie is so fucking good. And even 20 years later, everything about it is so fucking good, apart from you're allowed to titter at how cool they think the phones are. Matrix Reloaded, I still like it. I do still like it. what I like about it is basically from the hallway fight to the highway chase is you can't fault that part of the film.
The Matrix Reloaded, and certainly we'll get into this in more detail. By the way, I should preface this with I am obsessed with the first Matrix film. I wrote about it in my dissertation.
I'd also just like to say for the listeners that neither of us have indicated our feelings
How we
about
feel
Resurrections before we started recording. And I have a suspicion of how this is going to go, and I'm intrigued to see how it plays out.
Yeah, me too. I think we both know, but yeah. First Matrix is, I think we talked about this last podcast, we certainly talked about it, was the touch point of action films where action films change again. And one of the problems with the new one, with Resurrections, is they know that, but they don't deal with it in a good way. And we'll get into that in a second, but I want to go back to Reloaded before we move on from Reloaded, because I have a real soft spot for Reloaded. It's a bad film in terms of plot. I think this is really weirdly with The Matrix, and it's horrible. You feel horrible when you say this sort of stuff because there's so much good stuff in it. But sometimes I feel like the Matrix franchise didn't understand what made the original Matrix so good. I think they get into this thing where the philosophy becomes really sort of sixth form philosophy. It really unravels the good ideas they have. The first one, it's so encoded in the background. They're clearly influenced by Ghost in the Shell. They are talking about a culture that is just becoming prevalent, early internet culture. They're really exploring stuff. And now you know about how the Wachowskis transitioned. You know there's stuff going underneath that for them as well about identity and stuff. You've got real old school philosophy Descartes in it. You've got Baudrillard in there. Literally gets the floppy disks out of Simulation and Simulacra, or Simulacra and Simulation, the book. There's all this stuff bubbling underneath it. But at the end of the day, it's a simple story focusing on a character who is prophesized to be the one. But it's all about a person coming to terms with, choice versus destiny, which is what they understand in the new one. But they don't hammer that in your face.
Yeah.
You just go through it in the most high-octane, action-packed thrill ride ever. But it's a smart film. By the time you hit Reloaded, I think those two become separated. I think the philosophy becomes something they talk about, and then the action becomes something they do. The two don't feel like they're interconnected. But the action scenes in Reloaded, especially for the time, are incredible. That car chase scene is still one of the best car chase scene that's ever been on a film. I remember watching a thing or reading a thing that Edgar Wright said about when he made Baby Driver and he was watching a lot of car chase scenes. He said that was one that just still blew his mind, and it is incredible. You can see the older, especially the Rubberman stuff, CGI from the era, and it's all a bit clean and flat in places, but also it adds to that uncanny of the Matrix. But that chase scene, I go back to all the time, and that first fight with Smith in the playground, even though again the CGI is a bit ropey now, it looks a bit very green screen. It's still an incredible choreographed fight.
It starts well.
The way they plotted through that fight is incredible.
I like the first half of that fight until it's sort of, their imagination is too far ahead of the technology, I think, is how I would describe it. And it starts off like a pretty good fight. Then as more and more Agent Smiths come in, it's oh, this is pretty cool. And then there's just a snap, and it turns into a scene from Kung Fu Hustle.
I think it feels like a WWE event.
Yeah. And then it's just I'm watching a video game, But I had this thought as well that it's their imagination, the CGI couldn't keep up with what they wanted to do. But now that the CGI can keep up, that is what Marvel films are. It's just more realistic CGI characters fighting each other. But I did still enjoy Reloaded on revisiting it. I really enjoyed I sort of enjoy them dipping their toes into the world building. I quite like the Merovingian. I quite like that side of things. What I don't like, and I think this is what is why I don't like Revolutions as much, is it becomes very apparent that the interesting stuff happens in the Matrix, and I'm so much less interested in everything that happens outside the Matrix. And so when Revolutions is 80% outside the Matrix, I'm just kind of it's a bit, it goes all a bit like Babylon 5 or Star Wars prequels, where it's just like,
very good.
Oh, great. Here's another fucking space council debating some shit. Like,
yeah, it becomes very prequel Star Wars. Yeah.
Not
like,
into that.
But this is the thing that I like as well. I love the world building. I'm going to put a left-wing reference in here. Looper.
Oh, yeah.
I always come back to Looper as a film.
That's a good movie.
Looper has some amazing world building in it, but you never see it. It all happens in the peripheral. I think the thing that made the Matrix work in the first one is all that world building was there and it was underneath it. It was basically the foundation, what they let the story run through. It didn't become the story. And what the sequels come in, I think what this film certainly becomes with its sort of the weight of legacy in 20 years, is it becomes what fans make the film. So all that discussion about what is the Matrix, what is this, what is this, what is the philosophy behind this, what is the human condition, what is like, how similar are we to a computer program, and all that stuff that when fans got the Matrix, they discussed in detail. And that early sort of level of internet debate about film, that was there, but it wasn't in the film. It was just around the film. And you could see it in the peripheral, but you didn't focus on it. And by the time you get to the third Matrix, you literally have a guy going, love is just a word. And you're like, I don't need this now. I want to know about Neo's journey. And something that I really liked about the new one, and we should really actually talk about the new one.
Yeah.
Is I love that idea of like, because they did have a job bringing them back. Spoilers that are nearly 20 years old. They're both dead at the end of the third film. So the fact that they do have this way of bringing them back. And I think that was a great starting point, was a film where it is a love story about two people finding each other and about identity. And I really hoped it was that thing about like moving beyond that. I really like that as a starting point of a film, the idea that stuff has happened in this Matrix world post Neo. Like he's brought this treaty. And again, they're all going to be spoilers here.
Yeah, let's keep it spoilery light for the new one, at least. I think it's okay to do spoilers from the 20-year-old ones.
Yeah, long, like without going into any of the plot, but like I think there was an interesting starting point. I really like films that sort of reflect their own time. I think The Matrix did that really well. It was the end of sort of garish cyber culture of the 90s going into proper internet culture of the noughties. I think it was a real, like, you know, point in culture that just existed at that sort of those few years. And I think what would be interesting now, given The Matrix is about energy sources on a weird level, the fact that we're going through like this big sort of where we need to have a revolution in like the way we use sustainable energy and stuff, the jumping point would have been great if it was like in the outside world, there's been this huge struggle to transition from one thing to another whilst there's this treaty of peace. And I think that was kind of there. If you put that then in The Matrix and have this love story where it is literally two people rediscovering themselves and finding each other, you've got a really simple story to do. But it became a thing where it's like, and now we need to get this person here, and then we need to get this person here, and then we need to get them out of there so we can have this scene to go back there. But all the time we need to remind people that it is the original film.
Yeah.
Remember, it's the original film.
Also, remember this thing.
Yeah, we didn't have those, Phil. Yeah, we didn't have those people, but look at this. And then because it becomes so meta and it becomes so self-aware, and again, no spoilers, but it is very aware of its legacy, it becomes something that is a cool trick for a second, becomes so irritating throughout the whole film. And the action scene, something we talked about last week about action changing around that era of The Matrix. Like, obviously they have bullet time, and that was their thing, and they were slick, cool action. But they still had that thing where the environment felt very destructible and very part of the story. Whereas in this film, there's literally points where they walk into a place and you go, well, there's clearly going to be an action scene here because you've created a computer game level.
Yeah.
And that was my biggest problem with this film, was they clearly have played a lot of games the last 20 years, and they tried to incorporate that into it and make that the sort of culture they focus on. And the language just feels like a teenage boy has written some of this film, which would really upset me, because David Mitchell was the lead writer on this, who wrote like Cloud Atlas and Bone Clocks, and he's one of my favorite authors. And he's does really smart sort of action-led sci-fi. But there was just something there, like the action scenes even, which were great when they happened, were over too quick. They build towards these big action set pieces, and then they don't feel like they have jeopardy or consequence or purpose. And I felt that was really bad because they're so good at doing that. To hear those Matrix noises put onto action moves like that.
Yeah, the ADR and the sort of Foley of all the punching and stuff. They did deliver on that. I will say, like, the sound effects made it sound like a Matrix movie.
Yeah.
While I was watching this, I was having one of those sort of almost like out of body experiences where I had to keep checking in with myself. Like, am I enjoying this? How do I feel about this movie? For the first like half an hour, I was basically like, I don't understand what's happening. And then, it's the Matrix. So thankfully, everyone just explains it eventually in very long speeches. And I still, I watched it yesterday, and I've tried to do as much like reading and taking the temperature of opinion on it. And it seems like it's very polarizing. And I can't tell which side of the sort of polar I come down on.
I can't.
I know this. I didn't love it.
Same.
I didn't hate it.
Same.
And I think it's sort of fitting that we talk about it's sometimes okay to watch a 3-star movie, because I think this just might be a 3-star movie.
I think that's it is. I think, again, like you said, the weight of going in with expectations, like, because there's a lot of legacy films at the moment. And there is that sort of weight of fans want it to be what gave it that legacy. But like, there's just bits. I was rooting for this film all the way through, and it just kept making me go, oh.
Right. I had this thought, and I think I stand by this. In a way, I wish the first Matrix movie had been moderately successful, such that the studio had not commissioned any sequels, and it just lived on as a cult favorite movie. And the Wachowskis still, got to do all the stuff.
V for Vendetta absolutely gave us that.
And nothing else in the world needed to change. But maybe the first Matrix movie was just the only Matrix movie. And I wonder if we'd all have just been happy with that.
Yeah. But also, I would like to see the Animatrix still existing, because that is sublime.
Okay, yes. Yeah. Fair play.
But again, like, something, so, like, one thing that we obviously said when we started this podcast is we don't want to get down on films. And I do think, like, I bagged it then, but I did enjoy it. But it wasn't it wasn't the one.
I enjoyed watching it, and yes, you're right. We are meant to be celebrating films in this podcast, but with this one, I feel like only 4 episodes in, I'm creating a loophole for us. But it's such a big movie, and it's so much part of the discussion that, like, I feel like we have to talk about it. And it's not like it's a $5 million straight to video movie, and we're just being like, "This looks shit. Like, you can't bullshit." It's like this movie cost $190 million. And 20 years, right? So, and it has a weight of legacy behind it. And we're all going in with sky high expectations, but I think tempered with everyone's 20 years older. Like, so much has changed.
But that stuff didn't bother me. But they cover that. That's a really interesting thing that they cover quite well. The fact that technology has moved forward. I think they cover that in quite a good way, because they don't dwell on it. They just skim it.
Yeah, I like that some things sort of have been addressed to represent the modern technology of things, like the nature of the way that the Agent Smiths operate, and the sort of swarm thing being like a DDoS attack, or like that it reflects modern internet culture.
Again, no spoilers, but the swarm thing was one thing that made me dislike this.
Yeah, it got a little bit World War Z.
But it became, again, there's no jeopardy. Like, there's something about those... World War Z was exactly the thing that I went into my brain. The first Matrix film, the biggest action sequence in that is the lobby gunfight. One of the best gunfights ever put onto cinema. But there's not this infinite number of baddies coming. It's because you have a jeopardy. Like, these people are still essentially superheroes in this world. Like, they can do things that other people can't do. They are incredible at these things, but they still have consequences and jeopardy that they can die and they can think. That's the first problem that the Matrix recognized that it had with itself, is how do you make a death in a virtual world have meaning, unlike a game, which is you just come out and press continue. You die in the Matrix, you die in real life. Right, I understand that rule now.
Unless we have to make a fourth movie, in which case we can bring you back to life.
Yeah, which that sequence, there's a little thing where they explain it away how they did it. It's actually horrifying. It's really got into my stomach. But yeah, I think that was the thing when you've got these things where you like you said about Reloaded, when you can do this thing doesn't mean you should do this sometimes. Sometimes you should just go, right, I need this to be really functional.
Yeah, I felt that a little bit in Revolutions, which, sorry, it just reminded me of that. I think because they filmed Reloaded and Revolutions back to back, they top-loaded the action. So Reloaded absolutely swings for the fences and delivers some great action. Revolutions doesn't really, and the only bit that I remember from it is there's another gunfight when they go to the club that's sort of reminiscent of the lobby fight. But it just feels so unnecessary. And like they were like, well, we should probably try and do something cool in here. And then it was like an idea written down on the back of a napkin. Like, what if they all went upside down? Okay, why? It doesn't matter. It would look cool though, wouldn't it? And then it just sort of happens. And you're like, oh yeah, I mean, it is cool that they go upside down. Would have been great if like that had been teased, set up, alluded to at any point. And then it felt like that was a thing that was paid off rather than, they've just gone upside down now. Okay, then do the same cartwheels from the first one.
Yeah, I mean, I will say when Trinity does her back over the shoulder kick, I did get excited about that. It was great to see Carrie-Anne Moss still be able to kiss like a kiss, kick, like kiss,
Hello,
kick
Dr.
like an
Floyd.
absolute boss. Like it was amazing seeing like them doing. But again, there's something like. Because a lot of people do get hung up on age and stuff, but I love that idea. Again, I really like the idea of if this world existed and these people were still in it, where would they be 20 years after the biggest thing that happened? Again, not to keep going back to the MCU, but it's something they deal with very well post-Thanos. But I think there is that thing about the human condition, which this whole franchise is about, is like the human condition is so adaptable that even after something as big as World War II, culture changes and shifts. And the thing that everyone thought about, the thing that changed the world and the most horrific thing that happened, we do come away from it and we do start to forget what thing it was. I think that's a really interesting sort of point, again, that they could have gone into about the human condition, how we adapt and how we change. But they seem to get so obsessed with this idea of choice versus destiny. I think it got lost in its own ideas a little bit. But again, I don't want to bag on this film because there's I'm going to start trying to highlight really things. Biggest revelation about this film, someone I've absolutely loved for ages, Jessica Henwick, who plays Bugs, I think is going to be one of the absolute standout action stars of the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, she's was great.
Everything she has been in, she's always made her own. Even like Iron Fist, which... falls down on its
that's where I recognized her from. The kung fu show that didn't have great action scenes. I annoyingly,
she was also in one of my favorite films of last year, which was Love and Monsters, which
I have seen that movie and I really enjoyed it.
I thought if something needs franchising into a big TV series, it's that for me from last year.
I thought that was a lovely original IP and a delightful throwback to an era when movies like that existed. And I think it was pitched almost perfectly in terms of like humor and monsters and stuff. I didn't recognize her from that, but I have seen that. And I thought she was good in this. And during my internet perusal this morning, I saw that she posted a clip from the rehearsals of a fight scene from this where it was like her doing loads of cool shit. And then I was like, that's very reflective of what this movie does not do well. And that is the action scenes.
Yeah.
Because, and I rewatched some of them this morning and you're like, someone does one thing, cuts to something else. Someone does one thing, cuts to something else. There's a lot of cutting on the hits, which is like, no, we don't do this. I'd heard sort of people before kind of being a bit like, where's Yuen Woo Ping, who choreographed all the original movies and a million amazing Asian action movies. He is noticeable by his absence in this one. And I know everyone's getting a bit older, but the new generation are in there. For me, the action just didn't land. It just sort of seemed to forget what made the original good. You know, it's like in Reloaded, there's a couple of bits of bullet time that are completely CG, and they're just not as good as the original. I'm not saying do bullet time again. I'm saying what made the original great was long take action, well shot, not like over choppy, over edited. And I think there's a lot of like what I said about the club thing in Revolutions, where they're just, you know, when they shoot their guns, they do flips, you know, so make them do that. Every time someone shoots a gun, they just do a flip in this.
But again, it's because this film, it seems to forget it needs jeopardy. The first Matrix, as much as it's about Neo becoming and believing he is the one, the actual story of the Matrix is a man is awakened from a virtual reality world. He's layered with this weight of prophecy that he doesn't believe. But the actual final thing that drives the action in that film for the second half is Morpheus is kidnapped and they have to go back in and get him. And in a sense, you could see what they try to do, where they try to recreate that sort of level of we need to do this. But they overcomplicate it so much. You're like, I don't know why you're having this bit outside compared to inside.
And it seems like the prize for this one was like the stakes were two middle-aged white people get to kiss.
Yeah, which is great because they're both absolutely beautiful human beings.
Absolutely, but what are the stakes?
But that's the thing again. Like with the first one, you had Cypher is a great example, like the Judas character, because there is so much Christian symbolism in that film.
I forgot he got blinded in Revolutions.
Yeah.
When that happened, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot how they really doubled down on the Jesus shit.
Well, they call in the first Matrix, they call him Jesus. I think it's 3 times, and they do it like they go, Jesus, look at him. Like they physically call him Jesus 3 times. But again, like conflict is so important, and I think that's what's lacking. Like everything feels like this film should have simply been trying to remember someone who is essentially Jesus, trying to get them to remember who they are and come back into a world that's moved on beyond them, whilst at the meantime having something they want that they need to get outside of the Matrix. But they forgot to put in conflict points that make that a difficult journey. It's like they put in action because they knew they needed action, like you said before. Like in the first Matrix, you've got all that stuff with the agents. Like, you know, as good as these guys can get from downloaded kung fu straight into their head, they've still got these programs that are better than them. So they've always got something driving against them. On top of that, they've got all this, which again, we probably don't have time to go into all the blue pillar language that COVID has brought up, which is a fascinating deep dive.
Oh,
if you really want a day on the internet, look how conspiracy theorists have hijacked the language of the Matrix. It is an absolute day and a half of just treats. But they have all that.
Please don't do that. Please spend your time doing anything else.
And it's true. It's all true. You blue pillars, you don't want to see the truth.
Oh God, please get vaccinated.
But they have all that, like they have these conflicts at every turn. They have things that are always better than your heroes that they have to overcome. You have to get better than what is better than you in order to complete the goal. But at the same time, you have characters that essentially like Cypher, who is Judas, that are sabotaging from behind enemy line, like inside your own things. So they always give you enough as a viewer to be aware of why this is tense and why this can fail. Whereas in this one, it was kind of like,
at no point did you think, oh, they might die. You're just like, well, they were dead at the beginning. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen?
Exactly.
They're like not going to get back together or whatever?
To use their own language, it reminded me of when you've got a sequel to a video game. At the end of the first video game, you become so powerful compared to where you started at that video game that you are almost undefeatable. But then you get a sequel where you're like, but you have to now start with nothing again. The whole story here was like, imagine Superman's lost his powers and you have to remind him he's Superman.
Yeah.
All you want to see all the way through that is him remembering he's Superman.
But also it's a rom-com.
Yeah. And also it's a video game. Like, it's just, yeah, again, I keep going. This is the frustrating thing is there's so much in there that I loved. Like, it was like walking round somewhere you've not been in 20 years.
Yes.
And that was beautiful. And seeing the new shops they put in. And they do have, like, there's little bits I love. Like, I love how the cafe was called Simulate.
I thought that was a nice touch. Yeah, I enjoyed that. Yeah.
And I thought, yeah, they have laid on it. But it's just like, yeah, it's not enough to walk around somewhere you love.
No. I mean, I watched maybe 3-4 seasons too many of Dexter just because I like being around those characters. And if that taught me anything, it's that is not enough, even though I have watched the new series of Dexter as well. I will never learn. But you're right. It's not enough just to remind you of those characters. And my God, one thing I was not expecting, and I don't think this is a spoiler, is the amount of the old movies they just show you in this movie. Almost to the point where you're like, oh yeah, I did prefer that. I did prefer that bit. Yeah. Oh yeah, that was better. Oh yeah, it is a shame there's no Lawrence Fishburne. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
And the lack of Hugo Weaving really hit me as well. Like, all right, close your ears. This is the one spoiler. Simon might even cut this. But Agent Smith, the guy who plays Agent Smith, just do the voice. It's the easiest intonations to do. Mr. Anderson.
That's fair. And that guy in Revolutions, who was like the real world version of Smith, did a really good impression of him.
You're a different person. Again, that's something that I thought they would address more, which is more to do with the Wachowskis and like their own lives. But I thought like they might go into that idea of like identity and bodies and stuff like that. Which, to be fair, I'm probably sure they made those choices to not do that for very obvious reasons, like to not make it something that I don't know because it is that as well. It was always at the Matrix.
I feel like the movie is already so on the nose that it didn't need an extra Oh, and also, you know, it's really what's inside that counts, not what you look like on the outside. Like they didn't need to like lay that out.
Yeah,
because they'd already spent the first half an hour laying out.
But also, they don't need to do that because something we need to do as a society is just stop saying that and just accept that. Like, we know that.
Great point, well made.
We've learned that lesson already.
Yeah.
Just live that lesson.
And yet they're happy to have Jonathan Groff, whatever his name is, say a line that is like, our studio, Warner Brothers, are contractually obliged to put out the fourth movie whether you're involved or not.
Yeah, but he didn't say it like that.
No. I did it like Hugo Weaving.
Because it's so easy. It's such an easy voice to do.
Why didn't they let me read for this movie? I'd have put the work in. I'd have learned to do a backflip.
There's that way they covered that. The meta, like, again, really interesting way to look at the legacy and look at how they trap Neo in the Matrix by making him doubt his own reality by using his own life against him. Great.
Yeah, there was a lot of like...
put it in the background.
Gaslighting sort of vibes, right? Yeah. If I don't see another scene in a movie or a TV show where it's the inside of a trendy modern company and everyone's saying all the trendy modern zeitgeist things that are everything that's wrong with this particular trendy modern world, be it an advertising agency, a record label, a video games company, like I've seen that. I get it's like too on the nose and it's a trope already.
It always looks worse than it should be. Something they did really well compared to how they did it in the original. They really captured the monotony of modern life really well, which is what they did really well in the first one, but they didn't dwell on it for half an hour. Like that first thing when you see Neo in his cubicle, you understand his life. You understand why he's fighting to get out of this life. And something they've done and something they lent on really well, but probably leaned on for too long, that monotony's changed in the modern world. They've done a real sort of, what's it called? Like, I can't think what the book's called, but what Huxley did, they knew that by giving you everything in the modern world traps you within the modern world, which was different to the 90s. The 90s was more that office grind, that rage against the office life, that sort of really angry Nirvana stuff that was dying out. Rage Against the Machine, the system is broken and all that. Whereas the system now is so ingrained in everything you do, it's harder to see the monotony of the system because you believe you're fighting for a life that is, quite good. And I really like that.
Yeah, or whatever you see on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. That life compared to the 90s office life, the ideas are the same. Break from this monotony, break from this routine. And the way they sort of gave that sort of modern slice of Neo's like trapped in it was great. But again, always harking back to the first one, they did that within 2 minutes in the first film, and you never needed to see that life again because you understood it implicitly.
Yeah.
Like you understood, yes, this guy needs to be awakened. And then you have all your Alice in Wonderland stuff, which you have with Bugs, the white rabbit. For the white rabbit, he'll take you to Wonderland. You'll see the truth. Great.
Drink every time they reference something from the first movie.
Yeah, you'll be hammered.
You'll be absolutely hammered within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on it too much because I don't think it's a bad film. And I think it does, some of it looks great. And I would argue that there's some really nice shots and ideas.
Yeah.
Most of which are in the trailer. There's not...
Yeah.
I don't know what my standout action scene is from this.
I really like the first Office one before it deja vu's it out. I really like that. It felt that was where the first promise came in. I was like, oh, okay, more of this.
Right.
I've been waiting so long for that.
Yeah.
Like, more of this. Because that was all I wanted from the movie was Neo's been trapped in his own consciousness. He now has been blue-pilled to an nth degree. All we want to see is Neo remembering who he is.
Right. I feel like the sort of the cliff notes of this, maybe I would enjoy more than the way it was told in the movie because I spent too long going, what the fuck is going on? And then, okay. And then, yeah, I guess fine.
I really hate what this film has turned me into on this because I've been really negative about this film and I can feel it coming out of me. But again, it's like you say, it's not. It's a 3-star film. It's fine. It's fine. I think the weight of how good that first film is taints everything that comes out. Like you said, they just stopped. It was perfect.
I think Revolutions is a 3-star film.
Yeah,
I think
fine.
Reloaded is a 3.5-star film.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And
with
I think the first film is a 5-star film.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm coming from, and I think this is a 3-star film.
I will say this. I think this might be the second best Matrix, not for action, but for story. The second best.
Wow.
Yeah. I think there's some interesting stuff. Like I say, it's like going back to your school a few years after you left it, but now it's been 20 years and going, oh wow.
That's the thing, isn't it? And that is good and bad because parts of me were watching this film thinking that it was like, I wonder what like a 15 to 20-year-old would think watching this movie. I feel like they would watch it like they watch a 40-year-old doing a dance on TikTok and be like, oh, Mom.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, there's like just a couple of scenes that, and it's such a random thought, but remember like the MTV Video Music Awards?
Always.
They always has a place in my heart.
They did a thing for Reloaded where they had Sean William Scott and Justin Timberlake green screen themselves into the Matrix. I remember them songs.
Yes. And like there were a couple of scenes that just made me think of those where they get actual movie stars to sort of spoof the movies that they're in. And there were just a couple of bits with like Keanu and Carrie-Anne Moss stood next to each other that just looked like they were in a parody of The Matrix.
Yeah. This is something I would happily talk about forever.
I think we could talk about it forever. And I think that is why the internet is there, so that people can be like, no, you're wrong. You don't understand what a beautiful piece of art this is.
But isn't this is the interesting thing about, and this has been debated about art so many times. It's like when art is so good and it becomes given to the public, it kind of becomes the public's things. But like the Wachowskis created this world. It before the Wachowskis, it wasn't like there's a comic about this. They made this. So it is theirs.
They can do whatever they want with it, ultimately. And like people can love this movie or hate this movie. Yeah.
But sometimes that isn't a good thing. Look at Ridley Scott, what he did to the Alien franchise.
Who?
Which I'm not allowed to talk about at home, by the way. My wife has banned me from talking about it at home.
Oh, God. You're like Simon Pegg's character from Spaced talking about the new Star Wars movies.
Yeah. But that's the interesting thing, isn't it? That something becomes so loved and so big that even its creators, because they understand it from such a different level, from like levels that we will never understand it from, that they don't always do what the world thinks they should do with it. I think that's the hardest thing with legacy films. There's always going to be too much weight on legacy films. And sometimes you just got to go in and go, yeah, that's good. It's what I did with Ghostbusters Afterlife.
I mean, now I actually thought, to hark back to what we were saying earlier, I thought / was worried that you were going to love this, and I was going to not be able to watch Ghostbusters Afterlife based on that. But now I think we're both actually on the exact same page about this one, and it does feel like that. It feels a little bit like Warner Brothers were like, we're going to drive this boat off this waterfall, whether Lana Wachowski is at the helm or not.
Yeah.
And so she was just like, fuck it. You want a Matrix movie? Here's your fucking Matrix movie.
Yeah.
And I imagine they were like, okay. Not quite what we'd expected, but, it'll definitely make shit tons of money. So I guess thank you very much. And we'll call you in a year.
Yeah. Ending on a positive, because I really feel like I bagged this harder than it needs bagging. But again, that is because of my love for the original.
Yeah.
I think everyone who was in this film did a great job. Even if it wasn't even when I say do an Agent Smith accent, I think everyone turned in a great performance.
And there is one particular scene that I would love for you to use your very specific set of skills to add saliva to Jonathan Groff's performance, a la Hamilton. I don't know if you've watched Hamilton, but he's a very salivary man, and there were just a couple of bits where I was like, this would be very funny if someone on the internet put a lot of saliva coming out of his mouth.
TBC.
I've gone too deep. Yeah, I don't want to spend the whole time ragging on it, but that is sort of what we've done. It's not a bad film, but it's not The Matrix.
Yeah. Quick bleep for spoilers. The Merovingian was the worst thing in it. I've said it.
Yeah. And maybe on second watch, I'll enjoy it more because I'll go in with different expectations. Like so
I'm
many
wondering
things.
that. Maybe I'll see different things. So I'm looking for different things.
But sometimes I think, aren't you just meant to enjoy a movie once? And if you have to watch it again, is that what it should be? I haven't got time to watch all movies twice. Let me enjoy them at the level they're meant to be enjoyed when I watch them. That's what I've paid for, right?
You have never sounded more your age.
Oh my God.
As in that sentence.
The clock is ticking. We all don't have much time left on this earth, Matthew. And this was a 3-star movie. Yeah. It was fine. But you know what? If you don't watch it, your life's going to be no different. And I think if you do watch it, your life's going to be no different. But maybe you'll be one of the 5-star people, but I would say there's an equal chance you'll be one of the 1-star people.
If you're torn between watching this and the original, watch the original.
100%.
Rewatch the original.
There's a scene where they're projecting the original movie onto a big sheet in a room. And you know what? Part of me thought, just have that be the movie for 2 hours. Yeah. Just watch the sheet with the original movie on it.
Go into this film, you already know what you're going into. Anything with Keanu Reeves in is always going to be a joy.
Yeah, he's great in it. Everyone in it's good. There's some nice bits. You get a warm feeling when they show you all the shit you liked from the old ones. Right?
No.
To a point, and then there's another 2 hours of film after that.
It's not as bad as we're making out.
No, it's fine.
It's exactly what you expect.
It's the first podcast of the year. It's a new year. We had to cover The Matrix Resurrections. It's too big not to talk about it. But next episode, I'm going to pick something that we're going to be very happy and excited about. Okay? Yeah. And it won't be two middle-aged men grumping about a film that came out 20 years ago.
When I was young, they did with that film.
Oh, some people who watched this film won't have been born when the first one came out. Okay, let's end it on that. And as the tears begin to well in Matthew's eyes.
Yeah. As time is the biggest conflict of all.
Oh, God. Happy New Year, everyone.
The clock is ticking, Mr. Fielder. It's just that intonation, isn't
That's
it?
all you have to do. Groff, come on, mate. He looked like he was having a lovely time being in this movie, to be fair.
And he was great. He was very charismatic.
And who wouldn't? Feels like about time to wrap it up, Matt. People can find both of us on Twitter. I'm on Twitter more and more these days. You're on Twitter. I mean, you're probably on Twitter during this podcast. I can't see you typing, but somehow I think you are.
I have to stop myself.
At Matthew Heighton on Twitter.
I'm complete blue pill now.
Stop it. This will pop up in like search algorithms and then suddenly be like, oh, like we've had double the listenership. And then it'll just be from like awful shaven-headed American men holding torches. I'm at Simon Fielder on Twitter and Instagram and everywhere. Find me on the internet. Please, if you are one of those people, don't at us with really offensive things. You know, if you enjoyed it, then all power to you.
Yeah.
Just not white power to you.
Okay, maybe don't end on that. even though the message is correct. Just mention it felt off.
Yeah, fair enough.
Just have a new year. Have a good new year. Please get in touch if you've seen anything good you think we should watch.
Please, yes. Yes, please. Things that you've loved that we might think are 3-star movies.
We've got to just stop. We could have stopped so long ago.
I'm just going to do the classic fade out. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.